Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. It is finally officially autumn, and we had our first few days of autumn-like weather. In fact, while I'm wearing my capelet right now, the other day I actually had to put on my big, chunky, fluffy sweater. I was delighted. I am still, I hope, many weeks away from turning on the furnace and lighting up the pellet stove in my sewing room, especially. Although when it's humid like it was this week with the chill that was in the air, I have to admit I was tempted to turn on that pellet stove and just burn off a little bit of the humidity. I am sure that my kittens and especially my older cats would have loved that if I'd have done that. But instead, I just made sure they had some wonderful quilts to curl up in. The old female, we call her, her name is Callie officially, but we call her Kitty Putty. When she's ready to take a nap, I simply just go and get the blanket, the quilt that my husband curls up with when he watches TV. I put it in his chair and she curls up on that quilt, just like as if he was there and she was curled up on his lap. So, yes, it is autumn. And in the spirit of all things autumn, I have some fun autumnal, seasonal things to share with you. But I also have some fiber in my ongoing look at cellulose fibers. I've kind of run into a little bit of a roadblock, and I have with, so I'm going to start with the fiber, but let me just give you a heads up. I've run into a little bit of a roadblock with the spinning of the cellulose. My hands are tired, probably from not really having taken much of a break from anything since the Tour de France, or I should say the Tour de Fleece. And so I have been trying out the different cellulose fibers, but I really ran into a wall this week. I did manage to spin some of the hemp fiber that I have. I have two different hemp fibers, and I did manage to spin up the coarser of the two without much difficulty. But when I moved into spinning the finer fiber, which has much more feel of the flax and the other fibers that I've been spinning, my hands just protested. So I think I need to listen to my body and take a small break from spinning. But I did spin up this little bit. I haven't plied it yet, but I did spin up this hemp fiber, and honestly, this was a real joy to spin. I would never have anticipated that the coarse hemp for cording would have been so much fun, but it was. And I will ply this, and it will become, I'm sure, a little backup cord for my spinning wheel, because it's wonderful. So I wanted to share with you these two hemp fibers. So hemp, of course, is a fiber that has been used forever, for millennia, in the making of rope and cord. And modern exploration into using hemp as a fiber for textiles, we are able. I've been hearing that there is some hemp clothing out there that's it's soft. It's in the same type of idea of cotton and linen, and so it's a modern take on a very, very traditional fiber. But the two preparations that I have of fiber, I have, and I wanted to compare this, and I did, but this is what I spun and have this. And as I said, it actually was a really fun spin. It's long and stringy, and you can see how coarse it is. This is technically, I think, the coarsest fiber I have ever spun. It's coarse. I did use water and did a wet spin, and it was actually really fun. It wasn't hard on my hands. I didn't have a lot of issue. I didn't put it on a distaff. I just spun it from this. This one is, they're calling this the natural hemp sliver. Okay. I spun it directly from this, and it was easy. If I wasn't short on time, and that's the other thing. So in addition to my hands acting up, I have a construction project that I will be helping my husband with in the next few weeks. And that is going to take its toll on my body. Even if I am careful, even if I am judicious in my ability to help him, it's going to take its toll. And I am having so much fun with the other stuff that I'm doing. I still want to do the weekly podcasts because honestly, it's actually been really therapeutic for me to sit in front of the camera and share with you what I'm doing every week. And on that note, and I'll get back to the hemp in a second. On that note, so it is a podcast because I think that's the nature of me sitting here and chatting and telling you about what I'm doing and what I'm exploring. I have started having them set up as a premiere. I am doing that more for my convenience than worrying about whether or not I have a bunch of people watching the video with me. So if you're one of the people who have watched it with the premiere in the past or want to be there, I just want to let you know, I check my comments all the time. So if you don't watch the premiere, feel free to comment in the comment section. I will get back to you. If you're available to watch it during the premiere, I will try to be there to live chat with anybody that is there at that time. But I am doing them as a premiere because I am finding it is more convenient for me to go ahead and not just schedule it to post, but to post it on the premiere, to have it pop up so that you can see that, yes, the video is coming. And then for me to sit there and actually watch it. It's hard for me to watch my own videos, but for me to sit there and watch it, the time that I post it is a time that, regardless of my husband's work schedule, I can post it and I can have that time uninterrupted without anything else going on. So that is one of the reasons why that I'm posting it as a premiere. I'm there for the live chat if you want to reach out. I know that the time slot isn't necessarily convenient for everyone, but again, I try to answer any comments. If you have any questions, I try to always do that as soon as they post and I'm notified. I check those on a regular basis. So if you want to reach out to me, if you have a question, if you have a comment, please do. But so those are the two things. I want to do the videos weekly. I'm going to try to do the videos weekly despite the construction. I may even have some clips of the construction. We'll see. But I did want to get to spinning hemp. I've been very curious about it ever since it started becoming something we could produce in the United States again, although I believe both of these fibers are imported. It is something that I'm curious about because, as someone who has looked at the history of fibers as a historian of American history, U.S. history, it's fascinating to me that we have these fibers that have been so essential throughout the history of man, and yet because of, sadly, politics more than anything, they're pushed out. They're the industries that were so vital to the development of a nation in the 20th century became nearly entirely removed from the nation. And so for me, I have been watching the journey of being able to bring hemp back in, to be able to demystify and decriminalize and all of that, the nature of this plant. And so I've been very curious, and I wanted to spin it, and I didn't want to have it delayed and wait, and despite my hands, I really wanted to get to it. And as I said, it wasn't a long spin, but I really enjoyed it, because so much of the stuff that I spin, even when I spin stuff that is specifically for more of a craft, like amiguramis, or to be used with rugs, to be used for cat beds, things like that, more utilitarian fibers. Even when I spin stuff for utilitarian fibers, it never quite reaches the utilitarian nature that this hemp cord, because that's really, and it's splitting apart because it is not plied. There, that's cord. It is a single. It was fun. It was fun to not worry about it being soft, or to worry about it being something that would go into a sweater or a shawl. It could be what it wanted to be. And I enjoyed it. It was relaxing. It was very different. So this coarse hemp was just fun for the fact that it's so different from everything I've ever spun. This hemp, I hope I said hemp, not fun. If I get the words mixed up, I do apologize. It is, the brain doesn't always, the body doesn't always cooperate, and the words, the brain doesn't always get the right words out. But this hemp is something that I really wanted to spin and try. This hemp is really surprising. So this is what I was expecting, based on the fact that the cording that I use on my spinning wheels, it's hemp fiber, imported, but it is hemp cord. This was surprising, because this is much like the rami, much like the flax, and the nettle that I have spun. It's finer. It definitely spins much like the other fibers do. It has a similar texture. It doesn't have quite the cottony texture that I was telling you that the rami had, but I think it is honestly a little softer than the flax. So very definitely softer than than the nettle that I spun, or I should say, and definitely finer. So it's similar to the rami. It's similar to the flax. This is what I was expecting. This is really what, it makes good cord. And I suspect once I plied it, I probably could have spun it thinner and then ply it on itself and have an extremely strong and durable utilitarian item. This is asking to be spun thin, plied, put into weaving, used as I would use cotton or linen, honestly. So I was very surprised. Very, very different prep. So if you are ordering the fiber, double check what it is you're ordering. So the only difference that this one is listed as natural sliver. This one is listed as bleached hemp top. I would imagine different producers may call it something different than this, or they, you might find it listed as the same type of things. I purchased these from the Woolery, and if you look at them as you're ready to purchase them, even online, zoom in on the pictures, there is a noticeable difference. As I've shown on the camera, there is a noticeable difference between the two. And it's worth trying. I mean, I have plenty. I will be, at some point in the future, either I or my children will be able to have a lifetime supply of spinning wheel cord. But I really did want to at least try out the hemp. I think what I'll do is the other two fibers that I have in there that I wanted to do in this grouping. I have the pineapple. Let's see, what was the other one? So I had the pineapple and the banana, and they feel a lot more processed than just simply bleached or unbleached. So they actually would probably fit really well in with the other fibers that I have left to try out. But I'm thinking I'm going to at least wait until the end of October, because I'll probably be doing construction through October and maybe into November. We'll see. I'm going to give my hands a little bit of a break, because when I spin wool, because of the nature of it, because of the way it grips upon itself, it's easier on my hands. Definitely when there's lanolin, that's easier. But there's trying to hold onto the cellulose fibers, like the bleached hemp, the flax, the nettle, trying to hold those and spin with those. It's actually really, it dries out my hands, which I think adds a sensory issue. So my brain's trying to process that. But it is actually, it's a little bit harder for my gripping of it. I am wondering if I carded it and tried it in Rologs, if that might be a little bit easier. But I think it's going to have to be pushed off. I may have to take up this looking at the cellulose fibers in the new year. Let's just see how it goes. If my desire to spin overtakes my hands, then I will do that. I do know that I have coming up on the topic of spinning, before I share the rest of the stuff that I have today. On the topic of spinning and spinning fibers, I do have a little bit of a road trip planned, crossing my fingers. Last year, there was a big storm that made it so that the event didn't take place. But I will be going to a fiber festival here in, I think, about a week from the time this video goes up. And I am looking forward to a day out with my husband, and I'm hoping I will be able to come home maybe with a small bit of fiber. So I'll have that to share. So that's the fiber for this section of for this week's podcast. I do enjoy this fibers. I find myself warring between spinning and quilting, and it's been an ongoing challenge since I took up spinning, because my first real fabric passion was always quilting. I had dabbled with crochet and knit and making dolls and stuffed animals, but I really loved quilting, and especially loved the hand quilting. I don't mind the designing of a quilt, but I never enjoyed sitting at the sewing machine much. But now that I'm doing this English paper piecing and I can minimize the amount of time at the sewing machine, I'm finding that patchwork, and a patchwork is certainly, it's certainly a lot more fun when I get to sit in a comfy chair and do it. And so I have a bunch of this English paper piecing, excuse me, and a few other projects from the sewing room. But it is Halloween season, and I wanted to share this little guy, remind you that I believe I have some patterns. If you look on my blog post, you'll see the current, I'm doing the English paper piecing patterns. I did up some crochet stuff a few years back, and those are also in there's a category that's patterns to download on the blog post. You can see it when you look on the page. It's on the, looking at is on the, I think, left-hand side. So this one here, it's a little play with words. It's a little boobie. See? It's a little ghost and a bee. Oh, yes. So it was fun to make a few years ago. Not my own hand spun. Certainly not with that being that white. But a little project I made a few years ago I had fun with. And I wanted to share that because it is just a few days away from October. In fact, this video goes up just before, what is it, 2 days? Last 2 days of the month. And so I wanted to share that with you. And before I move on to the English paper piecing, I have to share this little guy with you. The Grim Reaper. This is a design by Kreative Kiwi. It is machine embroidery. It is done in multiple hoopings. It's a wonderful technique. And they have let's see, K's Cutz. K with a K, A-Y, K. K's Cutz on YouTube. She shows the making of this. So even if you don't have an embroidery machine, if you want to see how something like this is created, it is wonderful to go and pop over and see her tutorials. So Kreative Kiwi has a number of these type of designs. I am not sponsored by any means, but when I saw this little Grim Reaper, when he came out, I was like, yep, that's something I had to do this week. And that's the other thing. This time of the year, the designs on machine embroidery that come out, I just love them so much that I like to spend time doing that. And so it's harder to get to the spinning wheel. This one got me back into my sewing machine. This is back into my sewing room. This is the first real length of time I've spent in my sewing room since before it, before summer, made the room get warm. And he was so much fun. I had so much fun making. I did the smallest size because I wanted to be able to just get it done today. I haven't even finished completely washing away the wash away stabilizer because I just wanted to share him. I think I've already put up videos on my Instagram and a little preview of this here on a YouTube short. But he's just so much fun, and I get sucked into I get sucked into the season. Halloween and Christmas. The two most enjoyable machine embroidery times of the year. I love them. And this one, he's fun. I wanted a little bit less grim of a Grim Reaper. And so I made him, and that got me into the sewing room, and I have a couple other projects that I want to be working on that, in addition to the English paper piecing that I'm doing, I want to be back in the sewing room. I have some some shirts that I cut out the patterns for, the pieces for, back in May and June, that I haven't finished sewing together because I ended up getting into the spinning for Tour de Fleece. So I wanted to share that with you because I know those of you that have followed me along, they know, you know that it's not been the easiest year for me. And it was wonderful to have that joy in the process again. I try to just really listen to what my body wants to do and what my emotional state wants to do. And right now, my body and emotional state is saying it's time to get back to some of the machine embroidery and do some more of the English paper piecing, and because it's making me happy. And it's important, I think it's very important to, you know, we have things that we have to do that, you know, there's chores that must be done. And I have a number of projects going on that I'm really proud of myself for finally sitting down and getting to them. They are definitely not something that I can share on Instagram. One of the things I'm doing is I'm finally scanning and categorizing all of the photos that were my mom's, and I'm doing them in batches. The first batch is the big bin of photos that were not in photo albums or were in photo albums that weren't meant to preserve the pictures very well. A lot of the photo albums that my mom used in the 70s and the 80s, they would damage the photos rather than preserve them. The acid in the plastic and the glues and stuff like that. So when I had to clean up pack up my mom's house and everything now, almost 20 years ago, no, almost my mother-in-law 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, my mom 15 years ago. When I had to do that, I knew that I knew it was going to take me a while to deal with everything. So I took all of the photos out of the photo albums and I bagged them up in groupings, but all in zipper bags. And I'm now in the process of scanning all of those. Once they're done, then there is all the photos that are in the albums that are archival. Those I'll need to scan those. I have all of my husband's mother and father's photos as well that I need to do. They were big into slides. So I have a scanner that will actually scan negatives and slides. So I will be doing those. So I have other things that I am working through that don't necessarily make it onto a podcast, definitely not Instagram worthy. But I'm working through these after, well, my mother-in-law's been gone for almost 20 years, 19 years. And my mom passed away 4 years after her, my mother-in-law. My father-in-law is gone. My father has been out of the picture in my life for now over 40 years. And that's one of the things, when you sit down and you go through all of this, as I mentioned to my husband the other day, it's like, when you're sitting down and you're scanning all these photos and trying to get in essence, the archive put together for your own children. And and not just for my own children, but I am working to have it to where any of the photos that extend past my own family, I will be able to have them so that I can electronically, I'll probably burn them off on probably a flash drive or something of that nature, since most people don't have discs for their computers anymore. But I will be sharing all of these photos with different family groups that they coordinate with. That's the goal. I did this once before on a much smaller scale years ago. And this is something I knew I'd want to do with these photos. So going through literally thousands of photos, and trying to digitize them and trying to categorize them, it is something that I am well suited for. But I told my husband the other day, I said, it's kind of like sitting in a room surrounded by a lot of ghosts and not as cute and fluffy, because I'm scanning these and I have to label them. I have to figure out who's in them, what grouping, what year. And amazingly, even though my mother wasn't always the best at labeling the massive photos of the 70s, I am actually able to know who's in the pictures and what years that they were. And that's important. It's important for me to do this before my ability to remember fades. I was able to do this a little bit for some of my grandmother's photos years ago. I have a couple that maybe got mislabeled and I'm not too sure about. And now all of the individuals that would remember who they are have passed away. And that makes me sad. And so I don't want to have that happen with my own memories, I guess you could say. So I've been in the office doing that a bunch. I have a few other computer related and not so fun projects that I have to work on. And it is a have to. It is not a, oh yeah, let's add this to my bucket list. It is a have to. It is a service that I am doing. It is a blessing to me because it is that service, but it's not necessarily something that is bringing me a lot of joy. So as we go into October, I can understand why I would rather stitch a Grim Reaper than spend another few hours at the computer being surrounded by ghosts. I have been a historian for, I've loved history. I love family history, and I've loved it since as long as I could remember. One of the photos that I was looking at the other day was so cute. It showed me on the front lawn of the house that I grew up in, the house that my mom had grown up in as well. And it showed me, and I had turned a little red wagon into a covered wagon for my dolls. And I know at one time I also made a covered wagon for my Barbies. I loved history. I loved stories of the pioneers. I loved hearing about my own ancestors as they crossed the plains in the mid 1800s. And I was just always fascinated with history. I always loved history. But I'm finding that there's a little change when you reach a certain age, and you may love the subject, but it also can make you a little sad. So I would much rather be in the embroidery machine or stitching together some English paper piecing. But it's worthwhile doing, and it's something that if you have a stack that you haven't done yet, even if you don't know who is going to be the beneficiary of your digital archive, I recommend you do it. It's therapeutic. It's not the easiest thing, but it is therapeutic. I'm facing more than just ghosts, and it's helping. So I wanted to, it wasn't something I was really expecting to share here in the middle of this podcast today, but I also knew I really wasn't sure what or how this podcast would come about today. But it is something, it's what I'm doing. It's what I'm doing behind the scenes, behind the creativity, and it is helping. It is genuinely helping me find greater joy in the things that I'm doing, because I am engaging with something that I think I've avoided for too long. So there's a little message in the middle. I did have something. I still have the English paper piecing. I did have something I wanted to share with you. This is a neck light. Okay. Has 3 different settings of brightness, and 3 different color tones. This is how I am managing to do English paper piecing. This is how I've been managing to do the knitting that I was doing this summer before I stopped knitting, and I'm hoping to get back because I have the blocks that I was doing. This is how I've been getting through those projects, especially when working with anything of dark colors. It is making a world of difference. I had somebody ask me about it because of the way some people have issues with sensitivity with skin or nerve pain. To me, it is not uncomfortable. It doesn't. It's not hard on my skin. I am sure I could, if need be, I could put a cover. It is wonderful. They bend, they move. It's not heavy. It's not cumbersome, and it is a game changer. It makes it so much easier for me to see what I'm doing because I have the proper amount of light directed right on the task rather than just light all the way around. I've been meaning to share this with you guys now for over a month, maybe 2 months, and I keep forgetting. So I wanted to share that before I forget. I had this little pile here. I wanted to share that before I forgot. I have, before I show you the block, or in this case, I actually have 2 to share. So I shared my sewing box with you. I have a project that I'm working on. If you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you'll have seen a sneak peek. But I am working on a project that I'm calling Blowing in the Wind. There is a picture of what the quilt will look like when it is finished. It's a wall hanging, so it's not very big. It's going to finish 24 inches by 40 inches. And I have been working on those. It's just, so much fun. They're English paper pieced. There is the first completed block. I have all but these green ones of this block finished, ready to sew together. And then I have the falling leaves as well. So going back to the picture again, I don't know why I'm showing the picture. I could just show it in the superimpose it. But I have, so this is those 4 up in the top corner, and then I have what looks like the lighter yellow there, the falling leaf. I have all of those squares to sew together as well. But that is one of the things that I've been working on, and it is English paper piece. There's the back. Shows you that my little cardboard chipboard is still in there, so it's stiff. And that is one of the things that has been giving me a great deal of joy, and I have been consumed with, and my body has appreciated just the rest. And yes, this is this box has turned out to be wonderful. I wanted something for English paper piecing, and it fits in there, and that's a pretty big sized project. So I have that one. I also have to tell you, so one of my subscribers has gone down the rabbit hole of English paper piecing for the first time, and she has inspired me to create something else. I have not had a chance yet to do anything other than cut out all the pieces, which of course I got the pattern created. I then got the digital file for my husband to take to the laser cutter, and he cut out all the pieces for me. But I'm going to show a picture because, of course, this is just simply in the design phase. But I do actually have I'm not going to call it a pattern as much as a schematic. It gives you the pieces that you need. It gives you the basic construction outline of it. If you don't know how to quilt, if you don't know how to do English paper piecing, if you don't know how to do foundation piecing, or in this case, not foundation, template piecing, the pattern does not have any of that information. Okay, I keep putting in the description box below some links to some people who have really great channels with some tutorials that can help on that. However, I did create a PDF with all the schematics and with it set up to where you could print out and cut out all the itty bitty little one inch squares if it is something you want to try. I have not yet made it, but when I did my pumpkin and my jack-o'-lantern and my cat and my bat wall hanging, I wanted to do a ghost, and I just didn't want to do, my brain wasn't in focused at the moment. And so this subscriber inspired me they inspired me to try again through some of the comments and posts that they have been making on Instagram. So I have this PDF. I will post it in my blog post as well today so that you can give it a try. It is simply squares that you sew together. So if you are a quilter, there are so many different ways you can do this if you are someone who understands. But it is just the squares. It is just the schematic. It's the layout. I use the software Electric Quilt 8, EQ8. I use that software to design my wall hangings and my quilts and these EPP blocks. So that is going to be available on the blog post as well. This week's EPP pattern, there's two of them, very basic, just a 16 patch with some borders. But then we have the wonky one, a 16 patch that is now on point. So those are the two blocks. I wanted to share them both at the same time. This one is very easy construction. This one, getting the points and everything lined up, that's the next kind of challenge in things. So those are my English paper piecing blocks. That's what I've been up to. Some stuff, some fun stuff. I mean, yeah, getting him just to look right. It is wonderful this time of year. I love it's not just the cool temperatures, it's just the shift. It's just the shift in the seasons, shift in the way people, I think, get excited for the seasons, that I feel the difference. And so that's what I am up to. So I hope this has not been too random and crazy and around the block. I thank you all, those of you especially who have subscribed and who follow me every week, whether it is when the video first posts or easier time frame for you on the weekend or in the following week. I thank you. I thank you for just checking in, or clicking on the video, clicking on like, making a comment, but most importantly, just clicking on the video. Honestly, it is wonderful to know that for even a few minutes that you watch, that that you find something interesting. So, well, I should wrap up this rambling podcast. I wish you the best. I wish you, whether you are experiencing the autumn or the beginning of spring, I hope this transitional season finds you well, and that you find things to give you joy and to help you unwind with fiber and fabric, and maybe laugh a little bit or challenge yourself a bit as well. So until next week, wishing you the best. We will see you then.